Hello, my friend. This is Coach Marco Robert. And today what I want to do is I want to go over my famous quantum business architecture model. I want to give you a synopsis of how the model actually works so you can start implementing it inside of your business. So before we start, I want to make you a promise, okay? I've spent the last 10 years of my life traveling around the world, and every single year I am directly responsible for creating over $100,000, $100 million of brand new wealth in this world. So by working with my clients, every single year, I create over $100 million of brand new wealth that didn't exist before. That's the power of this quantum business architecture model. So by the end of this, you will understand the gist of it and be able to actually implement this if you're a consultant with your clients, or implement it directly yourself if you own a business. So who is this training for? Well, it's for people who are consultants and maybe they don't have they feel like they may not have the methods necessary to create massive results, right? So a lot of consultants out there, are happy with creating, incremental improvements inside of businesses, right? It's not rare for me to meet with consultants at airports or in hotel lounges, and they tell me, we've been working with this company for 3 years, and we're very proud to say that we've improved employee productivity by 18%. Or we've been working with this company for 18 months, and we've increased their sales by 12%. And while these things obviously create a sort of impact on businesses, I think you'd be pretty foolhardy to actually work with an expensive consultants to get meager results of that sort. With the quantum business architecture, my clients are able to experience results in the hundreds of percentiles. 100%, 200%, 300%, sometimes 1,000% results, and sometimes even more than that. This method is based on decades of me personally implementing business systems in my own businesses and in businesses that I consulted with, or other businesses that I actually partnered with the owners, hundreds of them. It's based on my personal research in many, many different aspects of business, including economics, finance, psychology, neuro-linguistic programming, neuroscience, finance, organizational management, leadership. Do you understand? I spent the last 30 years of my life, my entire adult life, poured over books and seminars and courses and documentaries to try and organize this sort of a science of business success. And after 30 years and over $1 billion created for myself and my clients, I have created this methodology called the quantum business architecture. And this is what I'm going to share with you. So I just want you to understand how powerful it is. Now, this is not for everyone, okay? This is ideally for business people that have owned businesses for several years, and they've had some successes, but they also understand that they have shortcomings. And they understand that they may not be able to grow as fast or as far as they would like to in business. In other words, they've tried really hard and not everything is working for them. Why is that important? Because those people have an open mind. See, who this is not for is brand new business people or brand new graduates. The guy who's just like fresh out of college with a brand new master's in business degree. That's probably not for you, because you think you already know a lot, and you probably do. And it's the same with somebody who's just started a company. I worked in Silicon Valley for 18 years of my life, and I've worked with really, really few startup companies. Because one of the challenges with startups is, if you're going to start a company, you kind of feel like you know what you need to do to make that business successful. It makes sense to me. And so the last thing you want is somebody to come and kind of be the elephant in the china shop and kind of reorganize your strategy. No, you need to actually go out there, test it out, test it. And after 3 or 4 or 5 years, you come back and you're like, okay, we've taken this as far as we can. we can feel like there's more. It's almost like they call it the glass ceiling feeling, right? You keep on bumping your head on a glass ceiling. You can see through it. You know there's more, but for some reason you can't break through that glass ceiling. Those are the ideal people for this kind of training here. So whether you own a business already and you've reached that stage, or you are a consultant and you've reached that stage, you're going to love, love, love what I'm about to tell you, okay? So the first thing that we need to understand is this. We live in a kind of world today where if you don't own a business, if you own a business that is inefficient, the entire world is against you. Now, I'm not even going to talk about employees because, man, you don't want to be an employee in today's day and age, okay? Not that you don't want to, but it's really hard. That's what I'm trying to say, okay? For the last 50 years or so, certainly since President Reagan was in office, the entire machine of government and the entire machine of corporations and finance in America and in most Western countries have shifted gear, and they've really, really empowered businesses. You know, if you look at, for example, you know, in the last 25, 30 years, productivity has skyrocketed, right? I mean, with advances in information technology, with the internet, with robotics, with software, hardware, just like phones and all sorts of tools that we have, the productivity of employees has skyrocketed probably like never before in history. And yet, if you are going to compare how much an average employee is making today versus how much an average employee was making 30 years ago, and you include normal consumer index annual incremental growth in that, people actually make about the same, sometimes even less than they did 30 years ago. What I'm trying to say is this: even though productivity has exploded, most of it has been captured by businesses, by the financial arenas like Wall Street and the banks, and by the government, and almost none of it has gone to employees, or almost none of it has gone to employee-minded micro business operators, right? So if the guy who runs a bakery, and he wakes up at 5 a.m. and actually, knead the dough and prepares the bread, and, so you can go in there at 7 o'clock in the morning and it smells like fresh bread, and you buy bread for him, and he's trying to make a living for himself. That guy struggles a lot today, okay? Just like the guy who works at the factory, the guy who works for a company behind a desk. These people tend to struggle a lot because the entire system is almost kind of conspiring against them, okay? So in order to succeed in life, really succeed, you're gonna need to have a business. But it's not enough to have a business. You need to have a very efficient and very effective business. So we're gonna talk about that today. What I did is I created this methodology to make businesses, to extract the maximum amount of production from any or every business possible, okay? So you'll see that's really, really cool. And if you're the right kind of person, I'm about to blow your mind. So I want you to understand this. There's 3 ways to increase businesses. The number one is what we call the linear way, okay? And this is something that's been pioneered by old management consultants from like 40, 50, 75 years ago, okay? And if you work with a management consulting firm today, this is what they're going to do. They're going to systemize your business. They're going to procedurize. They're going to create processes. They're going to bring templates. They're going to streamline. And then what you should expect as a client is what I call linear growth. Right? So your business keeps on growing in some sort of a linear fashion. That's awesome, right? If you don't do what I just said, if you don't bring a consultant, if you don't streamline, systemize, procedurize, create templates and procedures and processes and analyze and use spreadsheets, and if you don't do that, your business is going to go nowhere. We live in a world where competition is increased, where there's way more sophistication in all sorts of markets. You cannot operate your business like your parents used to run their restaurants when you were a kid, or you need to bring sophistication to business. And that's going to bring you a linear growth. That's pretty interesting, but pretty dull at the same time. A more recent way of growing your business is called the exponential. The exponential method. And this was actually pioneered in Silicon Valley by a lot of think tanks. And they came up with a lot of different methodologies to create what's called exponential growth in business, right? So we call it the hockey stick effect in the Silicon Valley, right? So the business may not be having a lot of growth initially, but then eventually they get to this hockey stick aspect, and then they just shoot off. That kind of growth requires a lot of ingenuity, a lot of thinking outside the box, a lot of innovation. That's the only way that the business can actually achieve that kind of results. And there are consultants out there who do that. Most business people on their own are not too good at thinking outside the box. That's just a reality. Business people who, if you're a business person and you want to improve your business on your own, this is probably the better method, where you actually streamline everything and systemize everything. That's certainly what I did when I owned my own businesses, starting at the age of 27. I worked day and night to just streamline everything, so that after a few months, I really did not have to work anymore, because I had people in place, I had systems in place, procedures in place, where the business was kind of running by itself. Okay. Now, there's a third model for growing a business, and that model is the model that I created, and it's called the quantum model. Now, to explain to you the quantum model, you need to understand that it operates in a different realm. It's in a different time and space continuum. Okay. Traditional businesses, imagine that this guy here starts and he's doing $0 a year, right? And then on a scale of 0 to $2 million, after maybe 5 years, he's at, 1.5 million or something like that, okay? Because he's working really hard, he's streamlining, systematizing, he learns to delegate, he learns to train, he learns to automate procedures. And, after a while, he's doing pretty good, from 0 to maybe $1.5 million. So let's say this is the baker guy. He starts, and at first, he's doing all the kneading and the doughing and the baking and stuff. But after a while, he's training other people. He finds time to open another location. And, after 4 or 5 years, maybe he's got 3 locations, and each of his locations is doing about $500,000 a year. And he's doing pretty well. He's overseeing his operations, probably working still pretty hard, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, but he's bringing in, $200,000, $300,000 a year, which is much more than the average, baker is able to bring home. So he's doing pretty good. This guy here is, it's a different way of thinking. So let's say we use the same scale from $0 to about 2 million. Well, so initially he may not, he's being very ingenious. He's being very innovative. So if he's in the bakery business, he's trying something that nobody really knows. Maybe he brings some bakery from Pakistan and from Lebanon and from Israel, and things that maybe most Westerners are not necessarily used to, right? And it takes him a while to actually take off. But then eventually he starts figuring out, no, I can work with grocery stores and they'll buy my stuff, and I could work with specialty restaurants, and very, very quickly, by being very innovative in his approach, eventually his business takes off. If he doesn't lose the business in the process, eventually the business takes off, and now, After the same 5 years, if everything works out fine, 5 years, now maybe he's doing $2 million a year, right? And he's repaying the money that he had to invest to start the business, and he's starting to do pretty well, okay? Quantum is completely different. Quantum, we can take any of these two businesses and they're doing, let's say the business is doing, $1 million a year. Or this business is doing $1.5 million a year. And then they come and they say, I want to work with you. And then what we do is by leveraging some of these elements and some of these elements, but other elements that I'm going to teach you right now, we find ourselves in a completely new realm of possibility. So you see this business here that's doing $2 million. If it keeps its growth next year, it's going to do maybe 3 or 4 million, and the year after that, maybe 6 or 7 million, right? That's pretty good. And then this one here, next year is probably going to do 1.6, 1.7, and the year after that, probably 1.8, 1.9. And in 3 years, it's going to be doing $2 million. That's pretty good, right? Quantum is, I take any one of these business, and then next year, they show up on a completely different graph, and they do $12 million, right? So the graph is now from 10 to 15 million. Right, so this was 0 to 2, 0 to 2, and now they show up in a different graph. We need to bring them into a completely different space, and now they do $12 million. So how are we able to achieve things like that? So that's what I'm going to be teaching you right now. I'm going to show you very briefly one of the models that I use to achieve that. The first part of the model is called triangulation. Right? Basically, what we do is we have 3 sets of data, right? 1, 2, 3. 3 sets of data. And by triangulating these 3 sets of data, we're able to pinpoint what is the core issue in the business. So the first set of data is something I call the sequence. So in order to build a business, there's kind of a sequence of events that need to take place, right? Think about this. So first, you need to have the right kind of person, right? The average Joe out there who wants to start a business will probably never make it, right? So you need to have an entrepreneur with the right profile. So do we have that? Number 2, we need to have the right product. We need to have a product that kind of distinguishes itself in the marketplace. We need to have a product that fulfills a need. Do we have that? Then we need to have a method, a proven method for generating revenue over and over again, right? Do we have a good method for that? Then we need to have as we're generating more and more revenue, the business starts to grow. So we probably need to have some sort of a system for hiring, training, supervising, managing employees, right? So we need to bring leadership to the business. Once we have that, then we need to have some financial systems in place to make sure that the business actually, not only does it have sales and revenue and it's growing and people are working and they're busy, but we're actually making money month over month over month. A lot of businesses out there, they look very busy, but they make no money. The business owners are struggling. So that's cool. Then, and then we want to make sure that all of this money is actually being recaptured, that it's not just profits that the business is wasting, but the profits are being recaptured by the business. And eventually the business is growing in value, right? So maybe at the beginning, the business is worth, 0 because it's a brand new business. But, the founders, they put a few $1,000s in the business. So the business is worth 10,000, 20,000. Eventually it grows, it's worth 100,000. But then everything needs to be recaptured so that the business keeps on growing and growing and growing, right? In value. So that eventually the business owner can actually say, okay, I'm going to call time out here. I've reached the retirement line and I'm going to retire. And I have a business here that's worth $3 million, right? Because if they don't know that last part, you may have 2 businesses that are identical, seemingly, right? From the outside, you're like, okay, this is a coffee shop and it does $2 million a year and it has $100,000 in profit. And this is another coffee shop and it does $2 million a year and it has $100,000 in profit. Okay. So you'd like, well, okay, they're both worth probably the same. No, no. This one could be worth $175,000, and this one could be worth $700,000. Okay? And I know if you don't understand what I'm talking about here, that's because you don't understand how to build equity. I'm not going to go in detail on how to build equity, but suffice it to say right now that it's part of growing a business, okay? Just like all of the other elements. So we call that the sequence. So as a business owner, you need to identify, where am I stuck in that sequence, right? So you need to identify that. Then number two, you need to identify the segments. So you can literally divide the business into two different segments, okay? So on the one hand is, how do we make the business more effective? And on the other hand, how do we make a business more efficient? Let me tell you what that means. An effective business is a business that is effective at generating massive sales, okay? So it's got like a great customer service model. It's got a great marketing, advertising, and sales engine, okay? So it's very effective for the efforts at generating massive amounts of revenue. And then the other one is an efficient business. An efficient business is a business that is really good at extracting a maximum amount of profit from sales. So by working with the employees, increasing the productivity of employees, by working with administration, operations, distribution, logistics, the business is good at streamlining, and they're really good at extracting a maximum amount of profit from the business. So you have to decide that the business that I'm looking at, my business, if you own a business, should we focus on increasing sales, or should we focus on maximizing profits? Should we focus on making the business more effective, or should we focus on making the business more efficient? Let me give you an example of each so that you understand, okay? Let's say we talk about effectiveness. I have a client in Canada, and she ran a business. I think her business is doing about $500,000 a year. It's a daycare center, okay? She got a couple of employees, and she's doing about $500,000 a year. She probably puts $100,000 in her pocket every year, okay? So just knowing that, should this business work on effectiveness to grow that $500,000, or efficiency to grow that $150,000? It's pretty easy, right? Immediately, you're like, well, it has to work. We have to grow the effectiveness. Okay, great, right? Because if I grow the efficiency, how much profit can I make? On $500,000 in sales, what's the maximum amount of profit I can extract? Can I get another 50,000? Maybe. So now I have 150,000 for the owner instead of 100,000 for the owners. Well, whoop-de-doo, right? That's good, but that's not that good. So what we did here is my client agreed that what we needed to do was to grow her business. So what we found is the fastest way to grow her business was not by just advertising or, normal ways, because there's kind of a maximum capacity to a daycare center. You can only take so many kids. She was kind of tapped out. What we decided to do was to leverage the community. So we have like these 35 kids that come every day. So we have 35 parents that have all sorts of issues. So we realized that these people had additional issues, okay? And then instead of, and I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but instead of just operating the normal business, we found out that there's additional services that this daycare could offer. Okay, so for example, when people have babies, they have things that they want to learn. Okay, I learned that. Like, for example, mothers need to learn how to lactate. They need to learn how to make the babies sleep. They need to learn how to deliver the baby. There's a lot of different things just for pregnant women and early mothers, right? And there's a slew of services that these parents could potentially need before they need to sell their toddlers to a daycare, and even after, while the toddlers are in the daycare. So what we did is we created, instead of just a normal daycare, we created kind of a community center surrounded or focused on delivering services to parents from the time they're pregnant until the kids are about, they're starting school or just starting school, like 5, 6, 7 years old. And there's a lot of services. And what we did is we found local people in the community who already had expertise in these domains, and we brought them in as contractors. And we said, we're going to do all the advertisement. You guys actually deliver the services, and we're going to create a split between the revenue. Well, my client was able to explode her business. You understand? Very, very quickly, literally overnight, she found herself in a completely new quantum space. Okay. So from, $500,000 in revenue, what's the best she could have done? Yeah, maybe we could have, built another wing to the daycare center. We would have had to invest a lot of money, and maybe we would have grown her daycare to $1 million, $1.2 million a year. Well, that's good, right? And again, like I said, from an efficiency perspective, we could have added maybe another 50,000. So if you mix those two together, we could have grown, in the course of maybe a year and a half, we could have grown that business to maybe 1.4, 1.5 million and extract maybe 300,000 or 400,000 for her. Yeah, that's good stuff. That's what most consultants do. But what we did is we went completely outside of the realm, and we created a brand new business based on the needs of the customers. And her business is just exploding. And now there's literally no limit. I wouldn't be surprised if this entrepreneurial woman, in 4 or 5 years, her business is doing $50 million. You understand? It's boom, completely new realm. Okay, so you need to understand what segment your business is in. And then number 3, you need to understand the strategy. Right? What's the strategy? Well, a strategy is basically, there's 4 steps to creating a strategy. Number 1, do we have a strategy? Like, do we know what direction we need to go? Right? Most businesses are, they're just operating on a day-to-day. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off. That's what most business owners do. Do we have a strategy in place? Do we have, so let's say here the problem is anyone, right? It could have been like we have a leadership problem, okay? And then we find out that the best way to improve the leadership problem is by improving the efficiency of the business. Okay. Do we have a strategy for doing that? No? Okay. Oh, yes, we do. Okay. Yes, we do. Okay. Then do we have the tactics? Do we have the actions that we're going to take to actually increase that? Yes, we do. Okay, great. Then if we do we have the processes in place? That we can actually start training other people, that we can actually measure? Do we have that in place? Yes, we do. Okay. Then do we have the metrics or the KPIs, the key performance indicator, to actually be able to measure where we are and if we're making progress? Do we have those? No, we don't. Okay, well, then we go. Then if we don't, then the challenge is we need to work on leadership. We're going to work on efficiency. And we need to have the right metrics in place to measure the progress that we're making. That's it. Okay? That's it. Now, if you've never run a business in your life before, you're like, well, that's cool. But if you've run a business before, you understand that what I just told you is I just told you exactly what you need to do in order to explode your business. Right? See, before having this conversation with me, if you own a business, you're thinking to yourself, well, I have this challenge, I have that challenge, I have this challenge, I have that challenge. And you might have 5, 6, or 7 different challenges in your business that you are trying to figure out. And all of these challenges are kind of the same. So which one are you going to address first? I do have a leadership problem. I do have a sales problem. I do have an accounting problem. I have a financial problem. We don't have enough money. Oh my God, my rent is too high. Right? So you have all of these issues, but you don't have a model for identifying what is the core issue. By triangulating between the sequence, the segments, and the strategy, you're able to pinpoint exactly what is the one thing that you should be working on. And this works like a series of chain links Business is like a series of chain links attached to one another. See, if I pull on one side of this chain, I'm going to test the integrity of the chain. If I bring enough force to it, at some point it's going to break, right? Where is it going to break? It's going to break in one place. We call that place the weakest link, right? You've heard that before. The weakest link. So every chain has one weakest link. One. Does it have weak links? Oh yeah, it has a lot of weak links. Like could be weak here, could be weak here, could be weak here. But it has one weakest link. So the goal as a business owner is not to know all the weak links. I know you know all the places in your business that you have issues. What is the one place that is actually really affecting your ability to take your business to the next level? It's the weakest link. How do you find the weakest link? By triangulating. Once you find the weakest link, your only job is to fix this. And then you test the integrity again. So let's imagine this. Before we start, we have a business with a lot of chain links, a lot of elements to that business. And the business is able to support, let's say, 1 ton of pressure. Because after 1 ton, it opens up right here and it breaks. So we fix this. By fixing this, what just happened to the entire business? How much more pressure can it sustain? Well, it depends. Depends on how weak this was. So maybe now we're able to sustain 1.5 ton, or maybe now we're able to sustain 10 tons, depending on what is the next weakest link. All right? Now we have another weak link. So if leadership and efficiency and KPI was the first one, maybe the second one is profit, sales, effectiveness, and strategy. So now we need a strategy to increase the effectiveness of our marketing machine so that we can actually increase the amount of profits possible, right? Now we fix that. What happens? Boom, now we go from 1.5 ton to maybe 20 tons. You understand? So you don't have to fix everything. You only have to fix the weakest link. And as you do that, your business is completely transformed. In fact, it is not rare for me to fix only one thing in the business and for that business to be completely transformed, completely. And by the way, I never fix more than 3 links, okay? So if it's not the first one, it's usually the second one. And if it's not the second one, it's the third one. So what I'm trying to tell you is in a matter of a few weeks, I'm able to completely turn around the business. Now, I'm gonna give you something here that's gonna make a big impact. You're listening to this, if you own a business, I know that almost 100% of the time, you're thinking, oh, I know exactly what the problem is in my business. The truth is, this is not intuitive. We've conducted a study recently. If you want, I'm happy to give you the report on that study. If you just go to marcorobert.com/report. It's a report that my team has put together. So marcorobert.com/report. And you'll find in there that we found out that 87% of the time, business owners thought they knew what the biggest issue was in their business. It was not it. Almost 100% of the time, 87% of the time, right? So if you're watching this and you think you know, you don't know until you've done a triangulation, okay? Once you've done a triangulation, you can pinpoint exactly what it is. Awesome. So that's how we're able to massively explode results and create results. And by the way, this is just one of the methods that I am using, okay? Let's imagine now that the problem is not efficiency or effectiveness, but the problem is efficiency. So I have a client in Australia who he's a contractor, he's a construction contractor, okay? I think he's in electricity. So he works with big developers and general contractors. They hire him. And they keep on lowering the rate that they're willing to pay him. Okay, so he's got it down to like $35 an hour. That's what they're willing to pay him. But the problem is that in order for him to get good workers, he has to pay more and more for the workers. So he's at a point where he's got to pay his electricians $27, $30 an hour if he wants to have good electricians. So you understand that if he's getting paid 35 and he's paying his electricians 30, there's not a lot of room here for profit, right? So he's struggling. He's at the point of losing his business because the business makes zero profit. After he's paid additional expenses, there's nothing left at the end of the year. So his problem is an efficiency problem. So here's how we figured out how to fix his efficiency. He's got a profit problem. What kind of problem do general contractors and real estate developers have? Most of them have a cash flow problem, okay? Why? Because in order to build a development, you're going to put a lot of your cash up front. You're going to buy the land. You're going to build houses. You're going to have to advertise. Before you actually start making money, your outlay of cash is huge. So most of these guys have a cash flow problem, and they're trying to fix their cash flow problem by paying less and less for their contractors, but they're squeezing the contractors' profits margins. One of the things I teach people inside of my quantum business architecture model is that there's 4 types of cash. There's sales, revenue, there's profits, there's cash, and there is equity, right? So 4 types of money: revenue, profit, cash flow, and equity. So once you understand each and every one of these, and you understand the relationship between all of these, you can really create magic in business. So this is what I did with this client. My client actually, the real estate market in Australia is really, really, really booming. So he's got a house that he bought about 10 years ago that's now worth about $1.2 million, and it's paid for, completely paid for. So he's got this asset that is worth $1.2 million. So I said, this is what we're going to do. I want you to go to your bank and see how much money you can get on a mortgage. We went to the bank, and the bank was ready and willing to give us $800,000 on that house. So we got $800,000, and we went to the contractors and we said, okay, right now you're paying me $30 an hour, but I cannot make a living at $30 an hour. So what if I'm willing to extend your terms? So instead of paying me every 30 days, I'll give you 90 days to pay me. In other words, what are we doing? We're helping them with their cash flow, okay? So I'll give you 90 days. Now, how am I going to finance this? Because I have $800,000 that I can use to pay my employees ahead of time. And actually, I'm cash flowing my own business with my personal piggy bank, okay? But we said, the only way we're going to do that, you have to give us $45 an hour. And they all agreed. You understand? So what my client did is he was able to grow. And by the way, not only was he able to, here's what happened. Not only did it affect his profits, it ended up affecting his sales, because the general contractors loved it so much, they gave him more projects. So his sales went up, his profits went up. He was very quickly able to repay the loan, and the scheme is working like magic, okay? And now he found himself in a completely new realm. You understand? This is not linear thinking. This is not creative, innovative thinking. This is leveraging different dimensions of business through triangulations and other means of using different dimensions of business that I teach to actually create massive, massive, explosive results. Does that make sense? Okay. I've gotten so good at this that one of my clients one day was joking. He said, Marco Robert walked in my business, and by the time I showed him everything around, and by the time we hit the back door of the business, he'd already put $100,000 in my pocket. And I was just so thrilled by that testimonial that I decided to write a book about it. So, and the book is free. So I'm happy to give you a book. If you go to marcorobertbook.com, Marco, M-A-R-C-O, Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, book, B-O-O-K.com. And you can just download the book. It's 100% free. And in the book, I'm going to show you 8 methods that I use inside of the quantum business architecture model to actually completely transform the effectiveness of businesses really quickly. Okay, so I want to give you as much value as I can here in the shortest period of time. Are we starting to? Is that starting to make sense? Okay. So obviously, this is kind of a synopsis of an entire program that I teach, right? And the entire program is based on 3 of the most important aspects of building a business. Okay, let me explain that to you. So the first reason why business owners do not achieve the results that they want this is the first one, okay? Is because business owners have emotional blockages. We all do, right? We all have things that are kind of stopping us from achieving our maximum, from leveraging our skills. Okay, some people are just afraid of speaking in public. Some people might be afraid of training, or some people just don't like to read or learn. Okay, so we all have blockages. So the first thing that I do is I help people remove their blockages. So the training is actually an entire weekend. The first part, the blockages part, is an entire weekend. Over the course of a weekend, you guys interact with me, and I show you how to remove the most important blockages. Okay, but I just want to give you some examples here. Let me give an example. I want you to answer this question. Is $2 million a lot of money? $2 million, is that a lot of money? And I've asked this question to audiences around the world. And I can tell you that about half of the people say, yes, it's a lot of money. And the other half are like, I don't know. I don't know. Is it a tricky question? Well, yes, it is a tricky question. Okay. Because $2 million, if I give you $2 million right now, it's a significant amount of money. But what if I give you $50,000 a year over the course of 40 years? What is that? Well, that's $2 million, but over the course of 40 years. The truth is, the vast majority of people living in a developed world, in the course of their career, will make $2 million, right? So if you were born after 1970 like me, most likely in your entire career, you will make over $2 million. How much of that is left at the end? Well, statistically speaking, almost zero, right? People have almost, by the time they retire, if you look at the stats, people have almost no money left. They make $2 million. Why? Because speed, when it comes to making money, is very, very important. If I can teach you how to make $2 million next year, you're going to be able to keep a lot of that money. But if it takes you 40 years to make $2 million, you're not going to be able to keep a lot of that money. Okay? So the idea of speed is very important. Let me give you an example. Another reframe. Let's say I have a $100 bill here, and I say I'll sell it to you for $10. Do you want it? Right? You should jump on it, right? I'm selling you $100 for $10. What if I have $1,000 and I'm selling it to you for $100? What if I have $10,000 and I sell it to you for $1,000? What if I have $100,000 and I sell it to you for $10,000? Are you still taking it? What if I have $1 million, a stack of $1 million right here, and I say you can have this stack for $100,000? Are you going to take it? You see, when I do this exercise in front of people, at a certain point, people start to feel a lot of friction. They're like, there's got to be a catch here somewhere. 10 for 100, everybody's willing to do it. But when it comes to 100,000 for $1 million, most people are not willing to do it. But I want you to think about it. Which one of these, by the way, they're all 10 to 1, right? 10 for 100 or 1,000 for 10,000. They're all 10 to 1. Which one has the greatest benefit? Which one? 100,000 to a million, right? Because you get to pocket $900,000. Where if I say, I'll give you $100 for $10, you can put $90 in your pocket. But most people are willing to do the basic one. They're not willing to do the big one. Because for some reason, they start freaking out. So you need to explore that inside of you. And you need to understand, is there a blockage there? Because if it was me, even if I didn't have the $100,000 on me right now, if somebody made me this offer, I would run around. And I can guarantee you that in the matter of 15, 30 minutes, I'm going to have the 100,000 so that I can get the $1 million. Right? In fact, I would put everything I own on this table. I would put it in my expensive watch. I would put my expensive phone. I'll empty out my wallet. I'll put it on the table and I say, listen, dude, you can have all of this if I'm not back in an hour with $100,000. Okay? Like I'm willing to put everything because I might have, I don't know, maybe $3,000, $4,000 worth of stuff here. I'm willing to put all of that in just for a chance to actually get the $1 million for $100,000. It's just a different way of thinking, right? In other words, when I come across opportunities like this, I'm ready. The problem is that most people come across opportunities and they're not ready. They haven't faced those blockages. Why is it that somebody gets to the age of 65 and they're worth $10 million, and somebody else gets to the age of 65 and they have seemingly the same education, same background, and so on and so forth, and they cannot even retire? Why? Both of these guys had the same kind of opportunities throughout their lives. It's just that one of them was getting ready and took advantage of opportunities. And the other one was really, really good at convincing himself not to take advantage of opportunities. So another very important point in life is this. Most of the time you should say yes. My girlfriend and I, my fiance now, and we have this thing, and I say, the answer is always yes. You can ask me anything you want. My answer is always yes. She's like, I can ask you anything you want. And she plays on me, right? But the truth is, my answer is pretty much always yes, right? Because what's the worst that can happen when you say yes? That something doesn't happen? That's it, right? But if I say no, I can guarantee you that nothing's going to happen. In fact, this is such an important principle. They made a movie about this. It was with Jim Carrey, and I think it's called Yes Man. Look it up. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. And you can see how his life, he says yes to everything. And you can see how his life takes turns. He's starting to have an amazing, amazing life. You need to learn to say yes. If you have programmed yourself to say no, 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 you might be an expert at saying no, but I can guarantee you that if you're an expert at saying no all the time, that by the time you're 65 years old, you're not going to be where you want to be. Because life is throwing a lot of opportunities at you. But you always say no. It's like the story of the priest. You might have heard that story before, right? There's a flood in Louisiana and everything is flooded and the water is rising and the water is rising. So the priest climbs on top of the church. And then a Zodiac boat comes by. And they say, priest, come on. It's going to get flooded. Come with us. We're going to take you to safety. He said, no, God will save me. And the guys leave. And then there's a helicopter that comes in. And you need to grab the ladder. And then they float this ladder. And the priest's like, no, thank you. God will save me. God will save me. And then, a couple minutes later, there's another boat, a guy in a canoe, he's driving by. And now the water is here. Not only, the priest has water up to here. Priest, come on in. No, God will save me. God will save me. And then the water rises and the priest drowns. And then he comes through the pearly gates, face to face with St. Peter and God. And he's very angry. He's like, oh my God, why did I die? I've had such a devout life, a religious person. I've given my life to God. And he said, and you made me die in this feeble flood. And St. Peter said, "You fool, we sent you 2 boats and a helicopter." You understand? Sometimes divinity, life itself will send you opportunities. But if you say no to everything, whatever your reason is, nothing's going to change for sure. Now, if you say yes, well, some things are going to change. And I'm going to tell you something because I've trained myself to do this for decades now. In most instances, I get something amazing. And by the way, either it works for me and I get something amazing, or it works on me and I get a lesson. I learn something. But you always move forward. Now, I'm going to give you one more example of this. When I was 30 years old, I have a partner, business partner. I'd made a lot of money in my 20s. I built businesses and I made a lot of money. And at the age of 30, I had invested with a few other partners. And one of the partners actually stole $1 million from me. And at that time, $1 million was a lot of money for me. In fact, it was almost all I owned. I put almost everything in there. And it was obviously devastating, right? I mean, I went from being this high roller to basically having to sleep on the couch at my in-laws, okay? So it was a devastating impact. And for a few years after that, it was really bearing down on me. And I was trying to make some decisions, and I was always holding back, and I was saying no to a lot of things because I was afraid. I was afraid to be taken for a ride again. And I was probably about 32, maybe 33 years old. I was attending a seminar. It was one of those free real estate seminars in Northern California. And before I went, it was a 3-day seminar. My wife said, "You're not buying anything." I said, no, of course not. I'm not buying it. And so Friday all day, I'm there, and it's good. It's really good content. And then at the end, they're making us a proposal. And I said, "No, I'm good. I'm good." So we go on Saturday, and they teach us a lot of good information again. And they make me another proposal. I'm like, no, that's okay. That's okay. And on Sunday, we go back. And then I'll never forget it. The teacher said this, the trainer, he said, "I know a lot of you guys in this room have decided that you are not going to buy, the actual training with us. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Because you think that, $38,000 is a lot of money. And for many of you, it is a lot of money. But I want you to understand something. If you are at all anything serious about investing in real estate, $38,000 is really not a lot of money. If you add in the fact that we're going to take you for an entire year, we're going to teach you 7 different seminars, 7 weekends, where we're going to teach you the tricks on how to flip houses, the tricks on how to renovate houses, the tricks on how to deal with contractors. And all of these things, plus you're gonna have a trip on the road with one of our trainers who's gonna go on the road with you and bid on properties with you. So you think that $38,000 is a lot of money? He said, if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose $38,000 like this in real estate. And I'm like, whoa, that's true. And then I started to think, I had just bought a property. I was already a real estate investor. And my wife and I had just bought a property about a month before. And just in the course of that weekend, I had learned a few things. I'm like, oh my God, I probably made a big mistake on that one property. I really hope it doesn't come and bite me back in the butt. And I'm like, I called my wife and I said, I think I'm going to do it. She said, what? I said, listen, I know it's a lot of money, $38,000. And by the way, you understand, at the time, not only was it a lot of money for me, but I had lost everything just a couple of years before. It was a lot of money. I didn't even have one credit card I could put this on. I had to divide it into 2 or 3 credit cards. So I told her, I said, think about this, okay? We want to make it big in the world of real estate. So we're going to have some big expenses. And these guys have been around for a long time. I really think they're going to be able to save us a lot of pain in the future. And she's like, well, if you want to do it, I trust you. And she trusted me. And then I sat down with the guy and I gave him, I think, 3 credit cards. and they put this on my cards. Now, I would love to be able to tell you that this was like amazing, and then the trainings were fantastic. The trainings were good, okay? I received good training. The organization was called, it was a Robert Allen's organization. So Robert Allen is a guru in the world of real estate. And the trainings were good trainings, okay? Not to go and scream on roofs, but they were good, valid trainings. But you know what I got from that experience? The most important part of this. In fact, I wish you could see I have shivers right now. What I got the most is this. For the first time since losing $1 million, I trusted myself. I trusted my own judgment. Not out of fear, out of, you know what, I'm going to take this and I'm going to run with it. And I swear to you guys, there are very few moments in my life that have been more impactful. I probably would not be here teaching you what I'm teaching you right now if 18 years ago, I had not taken one of the biggest risks at the time for me. Financially, it was a very, very big risk. So the reason why I'm telling you the story, just so that you know, learn to say yes, learn to trust yourself. You know, the reason why we fail in life is because we don't trust ourselves. The reason why we fail in life, because not only do we not trust ourselves, we lie to ourselves all the time. Think about this. Maybe a couple of nights ago, you went to bed and you said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up at 6:30. And what did you do at 6:30? You know, what do most of us do? Snooze, 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 right? What are you doing in that instant? What you're doing is you're arguing with yourself. The night before, Charlie says, I'm going to wake up at 6:30. But just, 8 hours later, Charlie says, no, I'm going to wake up at 7:30. Snooze, 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 snooze. Charlie is arguing with Charlie. Charlie says, you're lying. You're a liar. You're a liar. And then you keep on programming your brain like this. And then one day, you listen to one of those videos on YouTube, or you see one of Guru and you say, I'm going to become a millionaire. I will be a millionaire. I will be a billionaire. I will be a billionaire. I will vacation on yachts and private islands. And yeah. But deep down inside, you have this voice that says, that's not true. You're lying to yourself. You're just a liar. You keep on lying to yourself. Right? So how do we overcome this kind of blockage? We actually start trusting ourselves. We stop lying. When you make a decision, you move forward. You deal with the consequences. And you either get a windfall from your decision, or you get a lesson. But either way, you gain something, and then you take that, and then you put it in your backpack, and you keep on moving forward, and you put it in your backpack, okay? That's a very important blockage. Here's another one that is another very, very important blockage. And it's this idea of, there's a book written about that as well. It's called The Power of Now. Acting now, taking action now. Not saying, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it next month. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it tomorrow. That's not true. We never do it. We never take action tomorrow, right? So when we think like this, what we're doing is we are lying to ourselves, and we are missing out on a lot of opportunities. Let me tell you a story here. I'm reading it. Imagine that you are a surfer. Imagine a young surfer in his 20s, and he's surfing and he's having a lot of fun. And one day there's a rip tide, a tide that actually pushes everything away from the shore. And that young surfer finds himself or herself stuck in a rip tide. Now they're being pushed away from the current. They're being pushed away from the current. And they keep on saying, no, I'm going to swim against the current. I'm going to swim. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get back. Well, what normally happens to these people? What happens to people who constantly want to swim against the current? Eventually they get exhausted and they don't make it. So when you find yourself facing a current, and when you find yourself in life, when everything is tough, when things are not delivering, when things are not coming through, you need to move to the side, right? You need to find another path because this path is not working. And by the way, if you know anything about riptides, that's exactly how it works as well, right? The riptide is usually, it might be, I don't know, 100 yards wide. So all you have to do is you find yourself being dragged offshore. All you have to do is not swim against and try to come back. You swim sideways, until there's no more riptide trying to push you, and then you swim back. By that time, you might be really far. You might be 100, 200, 300 yards away. But that's okay. You swim next to it, and then you come back. If you try to fight the current, it's never going to work, and you're going to die. In life, it's the same thing. You know, if you try to fight the currents, so what's going to happen? You know, I was just with one of my business partners, and we were talking about this today. And he said, what do you think is the biggest problem in business, Marco? I said, the biggest problem is that most people don't know where they're starting from. They don't understand where to actually start from. They don't understand that model of triangulation that I talked about. So they don't know where they are. They know where they want to go, right? Oh, I want to go to San Francisco. Well, so if you are in Chicago and you want to go to San Francisco, you have to head southwest, right? And eventually, you know, you're going to get in that vicinity. You're going to go to California, and then you're going to be able to make it to San Francisco. But what if you're in San Francisco already and you want to go to Chicago, but you're convinced to swim southwest? You're never going to make it, you know? You're going to get lost in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And that's how most businesses never make it to their maximum potential. Because you have a business owner who has a blockage. For some reason, that guy is going southwest. He doesn't know why. Maybe because his parents always went southwest. Maybe because he saw someone on TV who said the best way to go is southwest. But this guy is going southwest. So if he happens to be in Chicago, he's going to show up in San Francisco at some point. But if he's already in San Francisco, he's going to get lost in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and he's never going to make it anywhere. Do you understand? So a specific methodology may not work for you right now. I don't know. Maybe you're on a path of success and you made $1 million last year, and then you keep on going forward. But if you feel friction, if you feel like you're going against a current, if you feel like you're losing sight of land, maybe you're going in the wrong direction. I don't know. But if it's one of your blockages, you need to let go of that blockage. You need to be willing to look at life in a different way. You need to understand exactly where you are and start heading in the right direction. Here's the other thing that I want to talk about. So blockages is number one. So I've covered a few blockages here that I normally talk about during these trainings. So you need to overcome your own blockages no matter how you do it, okay? So another thing that I talk about when I do my quantum business architecture training is the idea of competence. One of the reasons why people don't achieve success or the success that they desire is simply because they don't possess the skills, the talents, the knowledge, the information, the how-to, the model, the framework. They don't have the competence necessary to achieve their success. So you can remove all your blockages. But if you don't have the competence, you're never going to get there. Right? Building a business is actually pretty simple. But there are a few things that you need to know. Right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to build a business. You know how I came about to that? I'm kind of an expert at sales and marketing and advertising, copywriting, and how to grow businesses, okay? And sometimes I'm doing an analysis, And I'm talking with the business owner, and I said, you know what, I think what we should do is you and I should work on a marketing campaign to really increase your profits and stuff. And to increase your sales. And over the years, so many of them have come to me and said, marketing, we're good. We don't need help. We're good. We know how to do advertising and marketing. It's, okay. So where did you learn that? Did you go to school? Did you have a degree in marketing? Oh, no, we're good. No, that's okay. That's fine. If you're good, right? But so how did you learn that? Did you take seminars or something? Did you take marketing seminars? I've taken a lot of marketing seminars. Who have you studied with? No, I mean, marketing, advertising, we do it all the time. We're good. We know how to do this. Oh, I understand. Okay, but so, like, how did you know? I mean, did you take some trainings on YouTube, free trainings? Did you read books? How did you know? They're like, well, I don't know. They don't know. See, business is not intuitive. It's not intuitive. If you haven't studied it, if you haven't learned it, if you haven't developed a model that actually works over and over again, if it's not making you millions of dollars, you don't know it. Okay, so stop saying that you know. And I'm talking specifically about marketing and how to grow businesses. Everybody out there thinks they know how to grow a business. But you can't grow a business because you're not growing a business. So let me teach you how to grow a business. And then you'll see it's actually pretty simple, but you're going to have to follow my recipe. You're going to grow a business. So do you have the competence necessary to feel that? So when we do the training, the full quantum business architecture training, like I said, the first weekend we do this, but then we spend weeks together where I work one-on-one with you guys. Me, myself, personally, not anybody else on my team, me, where I guide you through the competence that you need in order to build either your own business, successful business, or build a brand new consulting practice if you want to become a consultant. Third, confidence. Do you possess a level of certainty that no matter what happens in your business tomorrow, no matter what happens in the economy tomorrow, no matter what happens in your marketplace, no matter what your competitors decide to do tomorrow, no matter what happens with your staff, no matter if we have another pandemic, no matter if tax rates increase, do you have the confidence that you can go through any type of storm? Most people don't. Most people are kind of praying that everything is going to stay the way it's going to stay. And, as long as things don't change too much here, I've got a pretty good thing going on here. Statistically speaking, in the time that you're going to own your business, things are going to change dramatically. We live in the most erratic, unpredictable world that's ever existed before. See, even just 20 years ago when I started my consulting practice, it was not rare for me to work with businesses and create 5-year plans. Today, I would never create a 5-year plan because you would have to be insane to believe that you know what's going to happen in 5 years in the world that we live in right now. Things are changing so fast that I had to adjust, I had to adapt, I had to come up with a new paradigm of helping my clients. So what most consultants have done, I'll tell you what most consultants have done. They stop planning for 5 years. Or some of them actually still plan for 5 years, but they have no freaking idea what they're doing. But most consultants have done is they've reduced it. They're like, okay, we can plan for a year now, 6 months, a year, 2 years. And in their delusion, they believe that they can still plan for a year or 2 years. I don't even believe that that's possible. I'm not saying that you should not have a certain target. That's different. You shouldn't have some ideas. That's different. But if you're relying on a plan, on what's going to happen Q2, Q3, Q4, next year, the year after that, you are completely delusional. It never works. So that exercise in most cases is futile. So what I have done today is I have shifted from helping my clients plan for the future to helping my clients become resilient, resourceful, where my clients today can face any situation, right? So we say, we're going to go that way. And I don't care if the economy goes down, up, or sideways. I don't care if there's a pandemic. I don't care if I lose all of my money. I don't care if my industry or my products go obsolete. I have the confidence in me to face any wind, to confront any battle, to battle against any enemy. So what I do is I've created this massive, massive coaching model where over weeks and weeks, I work one-on-one with you and I share with you hacks, loopholes, shortcuts, examples, experiences, models, frameworks, heuristics. Look up that word, heuristics, very important word. I share all sorts of tools that I have developed for making businesses successful. And it's not erratic. We share it in different segments of the business. So we go one segment at a time. And I show you exactly, if anything happens here, this is how you deal with it. Boom. If anything happens here, this is how you deal with it. People who have taken that training from me have gone on to explode their consulting practices personally, because now they're like, see, like over the years, I've trained a lot of accountants, for example, right? So accountants are really, really good with numbers, but they're afraid to take on bigger clients because they're like, well, what if the client actually has a sales need or a marketing need? I don't know anything about that. Well, now because they have all of these tricks and loopholes and tactics and hacks, like I can deal with sales and marketing. I can fix that easy. I can fix that easy. So by removing the blockages, by increasing your competence, and by learning about these hacks and stuff, you actually overcome blockages, competence, and the confidence challenges. And there's nothing that can actually stop you from building a successful business, okay? Literally, guys, it took me 30 years of research to put all of this together. And when you use this methodology, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish in life, okay? So now, not only do I use this in my trainings, I use it when I work with my clients. I use it when I work with their employees. I use it in family settings. I use this methodology all the time, okay? I actually call it the 3 C's because, you know, usually instead of calling it blockage, I call it consciousness. So you need to develop like an ability to be very conscious of what's going on around you and not be affected by old traditional blockages, okay? So you build your consciousness, your spirit, your life force. You have a lot of life force, then you have a lot of competence, and then you have a lot of confidence that you can deal with anything. That's how you build a successful business, a successful consulting practice. That's how you help your clients. That's how you change their lives, and that's how you change your life. Guys, I think I went a little more than I wanted here today. You can hear in my voice, I've given you everything I could give you. So I hope that you really enjoyed this very short training. It's a very short synopsis of an entire weeks and weeks and weeks of personal engagement with me where I go the distance to make sure that every single one of you actually creates massive, massive success.